Okay, well, hi, welcome back. Welcome. It is April 1st. No longer National Poetry Month. No more Paradise Lost. It's a Friday, sunny and cool and breezy, very breezy. And I just got done recording a video presentation of an end of year award for one of my seniors, well, two of my seniors with one of my colleagues, which is why I don't look like as quarantiney as I have lately. Anyway, I have been enjoying reading poetry in the pandemic, and that alliteration is not lost on poetry lovers. If you Google it, bunches and bunches and bunches of people are turning to poetry right now, which to me makes a whole lot of sense. As a way to evoke feeling that in trying to explain, your words just don't really reach what they need to reach. Anyway, I had thought about jumping right into some Cope and Wreath of the Lock, because it's shorter than Paradise Lost for sure, and it's got a completely different tone. It's mock epic, mock hero poem. But then I couldn't really resist the pun of reading Donne's Law Corona during the time of Corona. So I'm gonna do this first. It's 7 sonnets, and then maybe I'll shift to something longer, and then go to Wreath of the Lock as like a little pausing point between longer things, or maybe I'll do Wreath of the Lock next. I'm not sure which. Anyway, I feel like all I've done is stand in front of my computer all day, talking to people. So I'm ready to get tonight's installment done. Oh God. And then turning my computer off for at least the night. So what do you need to know about this? It is a 7-sonnet sequence, and part of Donne's Holy Sonnets. Sonnets are 14-line poems that can be written in a variety of forms. Often you can keep your ears open for a significant shift in either the plot of the poem, the narrative's going along, and then suddenly a break and something happens that is completely different, or that resolves everything that came before. It's called a caesura, and you can listen for that. I would tell you about rhyme schemes, but with Donne, especially Donne being read aloud, rhyme schemes end up being very hard to distinguish, because many of his lines are enjambed, which means that rather than having really clear end, like punctuation at the end of every line, and rather than having very traditional rhymes with the syllable of the words that we expect to rhyming, often Donne will do something called enjamb his lines. So he'll carry the mechanical structure of a sentence through the end of the line, and then end up breaking with a comma or a semicolon or a dash or a period or whatever, some sort of stopping punctuation in the middle of a line. If you're not reading along, if you're just listening, it'll sound like that's the end of the line, when in fact it isn't. So because of that, and because of the fact that he seems bent upon using as few words to fill up the syllables of every line in every sonnet, the metrical regularity of the words themselves that he chooses to rhyme with one another means that metrical irregularity of those words means that often the syllables we expect to rhyme aren't the ones that are rhyming, or the syllables that do rhyme aren't necessarily syllables that are stressed. You'll hear what I'm saying in a minute. Other things. Oh, coronas. Coronas are a thing in poetry. They're not just a thing in viruses. A corona in poetry is when a poem finishes with a particular line, and that particular line gets picked up as the starting line of the next poem in the sequence. In this case, we have 7 sonnets. The first poem, line 14, awesome, sonnet is over. Line 14 from poem 1 becomes line 1 for sonnet number 2. Line number 14 in sonnet number 2 becomes line number 1 in sonnet number 3. All the way down until you get to the very end of sonnet number 7. This is the last one in the sequence. Line number 14 in sonnet number 7 is the same as line number 1 in sonnet number 1. So those two, the end lines and the beginning lines, stitch every sonnet together, and then the very end of the sonnet sequence, the last line stitches the last sonnet together with the first sonnet. I think I'm just going to do these a day at a time. A sonnet at a time, that's what I mean. Problem with that is that the corona-ness of it becomes less clear. So that's what I'm thinking. Anyway, maybe every day I'll quickly read the one from before and then jump into the second one. I don't know. I'll figure that out as I go. All right. It's been a very long time since I've read these as well. And Donne somehow is even less forgiving than Milton of lack of reading preparation, which apparently I am championing these pandemic days. So forgive my stumbles. I'm gonna just like ask forgiveness from the start because I know they're gonna happen. So last thing, these poems I think are from the early years of the 17th century, so like 1607-ish, and make up part of the Holy Sonnets, which are the poems that Donne is most famous for. You've heard of them, Death Be Not Proud, and things like that. Okay, I'm really gonna start. La Corona, number 1. Deign at my hands this crown of prayer and praise, weaved in my low devout melancholy. Thou which of good hast, yea, art treasury, all changing, unchanged, ancient of days. But do not with a vile crown of frail bays reward my muses' white sincerity. But what thy thorny crown gained, that give me, a crown of glory, which doth flower always. The ends crown our works, but thou crownest our ends, for at our end begins our endless rest. This first, last end, now zealously possessed, with a strong, sober thirst, my soul attends. 'Tis time that heart and voice be lifted high. Salvation to all that will is nigh. Amazing. Today's pandemic poetry is done, and it took just a few minutes. All right. Today's pandemic poetry is done. The puns just never stop. Anyway, La Corona 1. Stick around for La Corona number 2 tomorrow. Thanks a lot. Bye.